Welcome back, everyone. This is the Sexual Intellectual Podcast. I am your host, JD, aka He Who Pods. And man, I almost didn't get this episode out. I gotta be honest, it's been rough. Timing. Timing is everything. And with platforms and issues, it's been a little wild for me. But excuses aside, here I am, specs on. You know what that means? We're gonna get right into some
politics as usual.
politics. It's been a while since we spoke politics, and it's time to talk about it. So let's do it. Let's talk a little bit about something that happened recently. Recently, the CDC director came true. You know what I'm saying? Came through and said, at this point, there's a tripledemic. A tripledemic. That's it. So let's talk a little bit about what is a tripledemic. What's a tripledemic? Nothing. It doesn't exist. They made it up. That's it. That's the quick version. The quick version is the CDC director, she saw what was going on, and she feels that because there are three illnesses affecting the country on a large scale, that we are not in an epidemic or a pandemic, we're in a tripledemic. And what she means is that there are three things happening simultaneously and everyone should be cautious. So she, I guess, coined the term tripledemic. And really, what that means is that they want us to be careful because of the flu and C19 and RSV. So all these things are going on. There's a lot of germs being passed around, and that's what it was. It was Strategery. Y'all remember Strategery? Who said that shit? I think it was George Bush Jr. I'm gonna try to find it and put it on the screen. I'm gonna see if I can find it for y'all.
He came up with strategery. And I said, wait a minute, I said strategery.
Strategery.
So it was a strategy, and it was basically to, I don't know if you want to say scare people or make people understand that they should be weary. I'm gonna take these off for a second. But the point is, she feels there's a lot going on, and so that's why she has coined that term, used that term, tripledemic. It took all over the internet, the news cycles for a while, and then it died down. We didn't hear about tripledemic. And then recently, the New York Times put out an article speaking about what's going on, why is there a tripledemic, and things of that nature. And so y'all could check it out if you want. It's an interesting article. It basically speaks about the reason why people need to wear masks, how some rates are going up as high as 56%, the rates of infection. But I am finding that most people are not listening to this advice. People are tired of C19, including me. And they're now requesting in New York, and they're now recommending in New York and LA that people begin to wear masks indoor again. Listen, man. I just wanted to speak about the strategy she used and the fact that she made up a word and that it went viral. I thought that was really interesting, and I totally forgot about it until I saw this New York Times article the other day. I said, oh, when I pod, I got to talk about this tripledemic because there's no such thing. So really what they're saying is germs are up, people are sick, and we have to be careful, especially as the holidays come and we get around our loved ones. And that's really it. So it was a strategic move, strategery, and that's what it was. Was it fear mongering? I don't know. Was it the wrong way to do it? I don't know. I just think it's interesting that she made up this term and the internet ran with it. So that's it for the triple demic. Let's move on. Now let's talk about a new term in the quiet family. ah, there's so much good stuff just going on. It's fun to talk about some of this stuff. I've missed talking about some of this stuff. So remember, we had quiet quitting, quiet firing. Uh, what was the other one? Quiet spying, I think it was. It's in the old episodes. Go back and watch. If you watch the episode called "Quiet Everything," there's breakdowns in there. Almost broke down my whole equipment situation. You guys saw that? So now we go to the New York Post. They wrote an article on November 2nd, and it reads, I'm sorry, this shit is funny to me. Over the last few months, the workplace trend quiet quitting has taken social media by storm. The term refers to employees who do the bare minimum in their jobs. They refrain from putting in any extra effort and instead place their own interests above those of their employer. Now there's a new trend in the career space. It's called quiet constraint. Quiet constraint. And it may also impact the productivity and success of American businesses. Now, here's a quote. The quote says, quiet constraint is a workplace trend we see emerging where many employees hold in valuable knowledge at work rather than sharing it with their colleagues. And that's a quote from, I'm about to ruin this name. I'm sorry in advance. Falgini Buddha. I'll put the spelling on the screen because I probably ruined this person's name. And I apologize because it's I shouldn't be ruining names like that. This person said 58% of employees have admitted holding on to knowledge or information that could benefit their coworkers, yet they haven't shared that info with them, according to a workplace culture report compiled by Kahoot. Kahoot is the company that they work for. It says that Gen Z is the top demographic for this untapped knowledge sharing at 77%, the report revealed. Gen Z is defined as those born between 1997 and 2012. Well, now we've got quiet constraint. Yo, my man said, I know I'm supposed to tell you this, but I'm not. Yo, let me tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all something. All of these quiet terms are hilarious to me. I think that they are just running with trends and trying to keep the quiet family growing. You know what I'm saying? It's like we just want to put more terms underneath the quiet umbrella. Man, people have been holding back information from coworkers probably since coworkers existed. It's not new for people to do that. It's not a trend that just started. People have been doing that forever. It's not nice. It shouldn't be done, but it's not new. It's not a new trend. It's so funny to me that they have come up with all of these terms for the internet and the internet era. Quiet constraint. Are you using quiet constraint? Are you keeping information from your coworkers? Quiet constraint. That shit is funny to me. So I had to come up here. I've been holding on to that one for a while. As you can see, November 2nd, that article came out. What a good time. Clearly, that was like a month and a half ago at this point. But I just had to come up here and tell y'all about quiet constraint. I haven't seen a lot of these terms on the internet. I still see quiet quitting a lot. But all these other ones in the quiet family, I have not heard of. But whatever, man. I think it's interesting. I wonder, does anybody have any of these quiet terms trademarked? It would be interesting if they did. Maybe that's the purpose of it. But anyway, which of the quiet things do you do? Do you quiet quit? Do you quiet, what's the other one? Quiet firing? Yo, are you part of the quiet family? Are you doing the bare minimum, quote unquote? Are you uh or are you on the other side? Are you a supervisor constricting the career of another person? Are you quietly compressing what the person is able to do and their growth in the company? Are you doing like this article and holding back important information from your coworkers? Let me know. Put it in the comments if you're brave enough. I can understand if you're not. But if you're brave enough, put it in the comments and let me know which one of the quiet family terms are you, or are you practicing? Is probably a better way to say it. Because man, this stuff is silly. I don't know. I think it's funny, but hey, who am I? I'm just a guy on a couch. Shrug. And now a little bit of a sidestep from what we do here. I know a lot of this is about sexual topics and politics, but really my aim is to put out thought-provoking content, to put out things that make people think, maybe are educational and hopefully entertaining. That's my aim. And so I want to talk a little bit about something that I think is really entertaining in a weird way. And that's dating shows. I've now seen a few dating shows, mostly from Nick Lachey and his wife. Shout out to them. This is not a paid ad, but man, they are killing it. They are doing all the dating shows, and I think it's really interesting. But those aren't the only ones I've watched. I'm not going to say all the ones I've watched, but I've seen quite a few dating shows at this point. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I think it's interesting. Definitely some wild things. Definitely some wild shows, wild television, wild experiences. And so a lot of these dating shows are different. Uh, the overall premise is that at the end of the show, you stay with someone or don't stay with someone. And a lot of the shows have you dealing with multiple people until you find the one or whoever you want to stick with. Each show does it different ways. But I don't even care about that. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how wild people's expectations are on these shows. It's crazy. And it's people of all ages. It's people from their early 20s all the way till their like mid 40s on these shows. And people have some wild ass expectations of the people that they want to be their partner before they even meet their partner. Like on basic interviews, it's just like, okay, so JD, what is it that you're looking for? Oh, well, I'm looking for. And when they start going down that scroll of a list, man, that shit is crazy. People expect wild things, like just out of this world stuff. And I think that, I mean, it makes for great television. I mean, honestly, you'd be sitting there glued, like, wow, that's what they want? Wow, people are this crazy? Whoa, someone's really gonna do that? Did this guy just fake cry? It's crazy. It makes for great television, which is why the internet is tweeting about it and talking about it and reposting videos. And, people are, making reaction videos and talking about these shows. So it's smart and they're going to keep making them from a financial perspective. But I just think as humans, we have some wild ass expectations. Like, okay, cool. Everyone has their things that they want from a significant other, a life partner, whatever. There's nothing wrong with having wants. But then what happens is people come with this list of wants and turn it into a list of requirements. So yeah, you might want a model. You might want someone who's 6'5" with a six pack. Or fellas, whoever, I don't even want to say fellas because you don't know who's watching or what they like. Or let me rephrase. Or on the flip side, you might say, "Oh, I want someone who is I guess since I'm going off physical attributes, we'll go. I want someone who doesn't have a BBL but has a nice butt, and I want someone who, whatever. Everyone has their little fake magical list of the 35 million things they want. But what I think is interesting is it's not a want on these shows. There's things that are just an expectation, a requirement, where people are like, "Oh nah, if you're not making this much money, I can't do it. If you don't have a six pack, I can't do it." And hey, listen, to each their own, right? You can want whatever you want. But I think what happens is people set these expectations so high that they're just unrealistic. And then you just end up alone, or you end up in a situation where you're compromising and unhappy because you're not being realistic, right? Because there's no way you're going to get every want on your list. It's just not possible, especially when you make those wants a requirement. Yeah, no, he has to have 400K or more in his bank account right now. She has to have a master's degree. She has to have a double D rack. She has to be able to do these things. He has to, and all these has to, must requirements, they make it a really, really interesting situation. Like, I mean, we have needs as people. You might need someone who, caters a little bit more to uh your insecure. I don't want to say insecurities. Who caters a little bit more to some of the things that you need. And I don't mean need in this fake want way. I mean actual need, right? Like some people need more affection. Some people need um more physical. Some people need more mental from their partner. Some people need someone to help them with the things that they have going on in their lives, right? Like you might have a sick parent, and now, yeah, your partner is going to need to be able to help with that situation if they're truly committed. But people will come in with these requirements, and it's like, yeah, no, you need to be able to make enough money to take care of me and my entire family. Well, how the hell I'm supposed to do that? Or they're like, yeah, you need to be able to. I don't even know. I probably should have watched one of the shows before I did this. But my point is, people have these wild ass expectations before they even meet a person. And then what happens is now this other person is looking at you like, but I got a list too. And so people are unwilling to compromise and have these crazy requirements. And then there's this other side of things, right? Where people's expectations are so low, they're just settling for whoever's giving them the attention they want. It's really interesting to see this uh, opposite. You see both sides of the spectrum, right? Like, so on one, you'll have one couple who both people are like, yeah, I got all these expectations. You need to be, my family needs to like you. You need to be able to cook. Yeah, I do this on the weekends. You need to be able to run these marathons with me. And you got other people who are like, man, I'm just the ugly duckling. Like nobody likes me, so I hope that whoever it is, they find me attractive and they're sweet. That's it. They find you attractive and they're sweet. Wow. And so I just think that these shows are very interesting and very entertaining because you get to see people's wild ass expectations, how they compromise on some things but not others. And I just wonder, like, why do people do this? Um, and I've spoken before about having expectations with partners and what happens when you don't communicate them. But I just think it's really interesting that people have these expectations of a person they never even met. Because if you never met me, how could you have 30 expectations, 30 things that you just expect me to do? I think is really interesting. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I think the problem comes when you're not willing to compromise, because if you have 30 things and they have 30 things, someone's going to have to compromise at some point. And then that's when the real conversations come. And a big part of relationships is also compromise. So I guess that's part of it too. But I just think it's really interesting. I'd be sitting there with my jaw dropped. I'm just like, wow, how do they expect to do this? I don't know, but I think it's interesting. I got time for one more. I'm gonna squeeze in this one more. Right? Do I? Yeah, I got time. All right, I want to talk a little bit about intimacy. That's right, intimacy, which kind of is a similar topic in a sense because I see on the shows and speaking to people. We also spoke about this a bit on one of my other podcasts, Man Cave Monday, where people are confusing physicality with intimacy. Sex is not intimacy. The physical act of sex does not always require intimacy. Uh yeah, I'm trying to see how I want to word this, but I guess I just be blunt here. There's there's a lot of ways that you can be physical that are not necessarily intimate. And there are a lot of ways where you can be intimate that are not necessarily sex. And I think that people are getting this confused. People are speaking about intimacy as if it is only sex. And when you look at sex as the only form of intimacy, you're jipping both parties, all parties, of a different experience. Being affectionate with someone is being intimate. Being vulnerable with someone is being intimate. Bending you over and pounding you out is not intimate. Aftercare can be intimate. And let me be clear, the physical act of making love can be intimate. But when people speak about intimate relationships, they're not always speaking about sex itself. And I think that a lot of people are confused about this today. Um, I think that when you really look into what intimacy is, you can have a lot of intimate moments without ever having sex. And the same, there's lots of ways to have sex that are not intimate at all. And I think that this is something that was worth discussing. Not too much to say here, not a lot to unpack, in my opinion. I think that people are just getting things a little confused because an intimate relationship can mean a lot of things. It does not only mean wham bam, thank you, ma'am. And the same, if it is wham bam, thank you, ma'am, if you just come over Wednesdays at 9 o'clock, we have 2 rounds and you go home, it may have zero intimacy. And let me be clear, both might feel great. It might feel amazing to have that wham bam, thank you, ma'am, couple rounds and go home. It might be, hey, this is amazing, and I look forward to every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. However, it doesn't mean that you're getting the intimacy you may need, want, crave, desire, etc. They are very different. And they can be intersected, interwoven, but they are not always. And so sometimes people will discuss the importance of intimacy, but really be discussing sex. And other times people can be discussing intimacy and not mean sex. I think that this is where communication is important with your partner, whether that is a life partner or just a sexual partner. You have to communicate and understand each other and learn each other. Uh, and then you can better understand what the person's needs, requirements are. Um, I think we all need intimacy. Now, this is my personal opinion. I think we all need intimacy, but there are people who don't require sex very often. But that doesn't mean that they don't want intimacy at all. I think we should look up what the word intimacy means and then kind of ask ourselves what intimate moments do I enjoy? What type of intimacy do I like to be part of? And I think if you do that, you can have a better outcome. But I do think I brought this topic up to say I'm kind of all over the place right now. But I brought this topic up to say that I think people are confusing the two. I think that there is a difference between physicality and intimacy. They are not always uh, one and the same. In fact, I would argue they're not one and the same. Because, like I said, you can have intimate moments that are not sexual, and you can have sexual moments that are not intimate. And I think in the perfect relationship, you have both, and you know each other well enough to know, like, okay, come get these cuddles and forehead kisses. And then there might be other moments when you say, okay, we just got home, lock the door, take your clothes off, get on the bed right now, or just pick them up and slam them on the bed. And there's nothing wrong with either side. But I think that different moments call for different things, and people are confusing the two. That's it. I'll be back soon. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate you. And don't forget to use Strategery.
Strategery.